Our story began at the very beginning. We looked back 1,300 years. A huge wave of monsters rose from a pit, and many warriors readied themselves to fight. Suddenly, one hero cursed, "Damn it, there is no end to them." Another said, "So it has begun." The spawning disaster chilled the air. A member of the hero's party replied, "Yes, uniformity. It seems we are too late once again. It can't be helped. As always, we will offer our lives to seal it away," another vowed. At that moment, someone shot a beam of light and said, "No, that won't be necessary." A huge beam struck the monsters and blew everything apart. The man who had fired the beam smirked and asked, "Why struggle against such weaklings?" Our main protagonist floated in the air. The party members watched in awe. The others joined the protagonist and said, "Liam, that last attack, what the hell was that?" The huge bearded man replied, "You could wipe out the climate demon swarms with a single strike." The magician-like party member added, "You are always exceptional even within the 100-man unit." But that was on another level. The magician stammered, "Could it be that you have?" The protagonist casually smirked and said, "I learned the 108th ability and made it my own." Everyone was shocked. The huge monster wave charged toward them again. They prepared to attack the protagonist, but he stood still as the wave advanced. When they were almost upon him, he readied his magic beam and fired again. Everyone was stunned by his power. The protagonist declared, "I have obtained 108 abilities and become omnipotent, the absolute king. I will defeat the climate demon alone. All of you, stay behind me." He walked toward the monster pit and stood on its edge. A huge monster climbed from the pit. Dozens of small eggs lay inside and kept hatching. "Those men-eating monsters, I won't allow them to be mass-produced," the protagonist said. He shot a golden light. "Sorry to interrupt your birth, but I'm taking you out," he added as the golden beam bound the huge monster that had been laying the eggs and dragged it to the surface. The monster fired a massive purple blast at the protagonist, who returned the attack. The two lightning-like beams collided in a huge explosion. "You will die today," the protagonist snarled. He remembered that every 300 years the climate demon, the disaster god, appeared with man-eating monsters and swarms. Humanity had fought those beasts since ancient times. Hunters who fought climatic demons were called the 100-man units. Warriors of the 100-man units reincarnated every 300 years to match the demon's revival. Each time they risked their lives to seal the demons away. Suddenly, they saw that half the huge monster's body had disappeared. But the old ways of sealing it are over, he thought. He charged up and roared, "This time I will annihilate you." He believed the omnipotent power of the combined 108 abilities could be unleashed only once. "I'm betting everything on it." A huge light burst from his bare chest. He was confused. An attack came from behind. Suddenly, every part of his body was cut away. He looked up. One man had taken his head. The protagonist recognized his teammate and shouted, "Magrity, why?" Magrity answered, "I couldn't permit the climate demon to be killed, which is why I will take all 108 powers for myself. And I will place a curse on you so that you may never suffer reincarnation again." Magrity threw the protagonist's body aside and cast a spell. The protagonist screamed in pain. The red-haired man smirked and said, "Serves you right, absolute king." He continued, "I will drag you into the abyss along with the climate demon." They pushed the protagonist toward the pit, and he fell. He saw his fellow comrades laughing, and a thunderbolt struck. A huge magic circle opened in the pit. Various monsters charged at him. The red-haired man said, "There, that should seal it." The bodies of the protagonist's comrades vanished. When he woke, he thought of the cost of their lives. They had sealed away both the climate demon and himself. They had not wanted the climate demon destroyed for true peace. Why did the climate demon revive every 300 years? Could its revival somehow benefit them? He said, "Look, it's like we're going to be together for a while." The climate demon charged and drool ran from its mouth. The monster swung a huge claw at him, but the claw stopped in front of his face. The protagonist sneered, "What are you gloating about? Creatures of such low intelligence, you petty humans, cling to sadistic sticks." Climatic demons and their spawns continued to vomit and violate him in every imaginable way. He endured it, Just as the traitor Magrity declared, he had been crushed into immortality. Every climate demon charged at him and bit him. He suffered immense pain. Even when his organs were torn out or his flesh devoured, his body regenerated instantly. 120 years later, they found the protagonist's body covered with the mouths of monsters. When he woke, he swore, "No matter how many millennia pass, my vengeance will not falter against those traitors, against fate, against endless glory and agony. I will rise from the ashes and make you all submit. That is why bring death to me." Suddenly, beam of light burst forth. "Lord Liam, please return," someone called. A light enveloped him. The beam returned his soul to its vessel. A huge light burst, and the protagonist lay on the ground in a disgusting state. He awoke in an empty street, stretched and wretched. "I can't stand," he muttered. Someone said, "He's alive, there's no way he's dead, right?" Another laughed. "For someone like Kai, I'm not about to become a murderer." He kicked the protagonist and scolded him for making them worry. "So he's alive after all. Let's dunk him in the pond one more time." The protagonist wondered who those people were. He didn't recognize them. A flashlight beam struck, and they dragged his head toward the pond as he searched for breath. A man spoke, "You're way too soft." He stepped forward. Another man said, "Joshua, take him. Give him an injection." Joshua said, "I'll show you how it's done. Anyone who takes these drugs performs the most ridiculous dance," someone joked. "You'll be hooked for sure." The protagonist pleaded, "Stop." Joshua barked, "Hold him down." Two men charged forward, grabbed him, and said, "Come on, stay still. Joshua will give you an injection." The protagonist vomited again. Someone muttered, "What are those movements? This is disgusting." Joshua laughed. "Just like a puppet dance." The protagonist fell into his own vomit and said nothing. He passed out while the others laughed. Joshua smacked his belly with his foot. "Hurry up, get on your feet. Keep dancing until you die." The protagonist's face went dark. "I see. This is sickening," he thought. A bully flinched, then smirked. "Hey, what did you say?" he demanded. The protagonist grabbed the bully's hand tightly and said, "I don't fully understand the situation. But one thing is clear, you people are trash, and trash like you deserves to be punished. Am I right?" Suddenly, in another scene, a group of people stood in front of a gate and said, "This is your residence." The protagonist thought it was nothing more than a ruin. The man who had bullied the protagonist before had clearly been beaten. Another man sneered, "Why the hell did you make us guide him all the way here?" The protagonist called out, "Hey, you there." They were all frightened and said nothing. The protagonist continued, "You can go home for today, but don't think this is over." Their faces looked terrified. He opened the door and a person bowed. "Your Highness, you have returned." He thought, "Your Highness? So this vessel has royal blood. I can access the memories of the bullying, but nothing else from this body. Is it rejecting other memories?" He then asked aloud, "Hey, what is Kai's leak?" The others were surprised. One said, "You are the 8th prince of this kingdom. Aren't royals supposed to live in a castle?" The protagonist asked. "That's true," the man replied. The protagonist sensed there were special circumstances, yet those men had treated a member of the royal family like common scum. The butler stepped forward and said, "Well, I will let it slide for now. This body is clearly malnourished." He then added, "Please wait. Lord Kai, what's gotten into you? You seem like a completely different person." The protagonist wondered, a mere butler questioning a royal's words and actions, does he look down on Kai? No, that wasn't it. He was worried. He sighed and said, "I never pretended to be the person you knew from the start. Unfortunately, the Kai you knew is dead." The others were stunned. "What?" someone whispered. The protagonist continued, "From now on, consider yourself in the service of another man." He lay down on his bed and drifted into thought. 2,100 years earlier, he remembered a scene. Several monsters ganging up on a group of heroes. A party member shouted, "McGrady, big brother." Another added, "It's still too soon for us." The red-haired man said, "Even if you say that." Suddenly, a huge horn speared his chest and hurled him against a rock. A girl screamed, "Big brother!" A tentacle grabbed her leg and pulled. "No, no, no, you can't do this. Leave me alone," she cried. "Stop it, don't lay a hand on her," someone yelled. A great blast of light came from above. Lightning struck the monsters. A voice called out, "Looks like I arrived just in time, you're half dead, aren't you?" The protagonist smiled. The red-haired man said, "Liam, you came to save us, even after I said I wouldn't rely on your help, even after acting on my own." The protagonist replied, "Now that you mention it, you're shouting like a child." Well, whatever, this solves the problem. He healed the red-haired man's wounds and asked, "How is Miana?" The girl suddenly fell silent. The protagonist continued, "You're trying to gather enhancement material for yourself, aren't you, Ed man?" The red-haired man bowed his head. The protagonist offered his hand to help him up. The red-haired man grinned despite himself and said, "You piss me off sometimes, but you saved both my life and Miana's. I will never forget this debt." The protagonist's bad thoughts faded. It was only a dream. He sat up and said, "I have to find those ungrateful bastards and take back the power that is rightfully mine." He looked toward his window and added, "But first, it's only proper that I show my gratitude to Kai for offering his body as my vessel." In the next scene, we saw the next morning. The butler said, "Good morning, Lord Kai. Breakfast has already been served." He thought the menu was as plain as yesterday, and the taste awful. He took a bite and said nothing, thinking the meals were prepared by a butler unaccustomed to cooking. There was no sign of anyone else. He sighed and muttered, "Some prince lied." The butler answered, "Apologies, my lord." "Stop," he replied. "If you have any pride, do not apologize." The butler was stunned. He ate his breakfast in silence. He noticed, however, that the quality of the food had improved. It must have improved very quickly, he thought. In another scene, students chattered. "Have you prepared for magic class?" someone asked. "Good morning," others replied. The protagonist stood in front of the school and thought, "How do I find Kai's enemies? I have no clue." Suddenly, voice rang out, "So you finally decide to grace us with your presence, Kai?" A bunch of boys who had already been beaten approached. Their leader, Joshua, came forward. Joshua smiled. The protagonist thought, "So this is Joshua, the one who bullied Kai." Joshua sneered, "I heard you roughed up my boys yesterday. You really got carried away, huh? Do you think you can defy us, you mere descendant of Liam? That's unforgivable." Joshua's companion added, "The nerve of you, fighting back." Another boy said, "Yeah, let it show him his place. Get him." Joshua shouted as everyone threw rocks at the protagonist. He said nothing and did nothing. Look at him just standing there frozen. Is he about to wet himself? Someone jeered. The protagonist realized this was the suffering Kai had endured. The crowd paused as they met his gaze and stopped throwing rocks. They froze. Joshua shouted, "Hey, who said you could stop?" The boys hesitated. Joshua gritted his teeth. "Fine, I'll deal with you myself." He stepped forward and threw a punch. The protagonist blocked it. Joshua taunted, "You must know your place." Suddenly a bone cracked. The protagonist said, "Oh, that's right. This body is still fragile." Everyone gasped. He healed himself. Someone cried, "I can't believe it," another whispered. Joshua conjured fire. "What an irritating bastard," he spat, launching flames at the protagonist. "Go to hell." The protagonist sighed and formed an ice shield. The shield blocked the fire and redirected it toward Joshua. Joshua was hit and coughed up blood. The collision sent people sprawling. Several were injured. Some had fainted. Those left standing were silent and shocked. The protagonist stood and muttered, "No resistance at all." Then a deep voice boomed, "What do you think you're doing?" A fat man stepped forward. "Are you trying to cause trouble? You need to be taught a lesson." "They started it," the protagonist said. The fat man turned. "So what? I'm the one speaking to you. Come with me, no backtalk." The students murmured among themselves, "Serves you right, Kai. How many weeks will he be out this time?" The protagonist clenched his teeth as a headache struck. A memory flashed, a teacher beating him. Oh, so that was Kai's memory, he realized. He ground his teeth. Damn it. So the teacher is another one who tortured him. The teacher called out, "Don't keep me waiting. Good grief, a slowpoke like you needs discipline." He smiled cruelly. The protagonist thought, "Me? Very well. I will show the rotten nature out of you." He gritted his teeth, a devilish determination forming. In the next scene, the protagonist stood in a locked room with the portly teacher. The teacher had locked the door and sneered, "To think I just taught you a lesson 3 days ago." Flashback played. The memory showed the protagonist being beaten. The teacher continued, "And yet here you are, causing trouble again. You must be some kind of pervert who enjoys being punished, aren't you, you fake royal? You're nothing but a common loser." He seized the protagonist's shoulder and spat, "That's what you get for carrying the blood of a war traitor." He conjured magic. "There is no one less fitting to be a descendant of Liam than you." He bound the protagonist's hands and legs with shackles of light and forced him against the wall. "What's wrong? Aren't you going to cry and scream as usual? That's the only thing you're good at." He licked his lips and produced a whip. "Whimper and beg for forgiveness, right?" The protagonist said nothing. He did not tremble. The teacher scoffed. "He's not shaking." His mind finally snapped. "How boring. I thought you'd be the perfect toy to relieve my stress." He raised the whip. "Just let me hear your pathetic cries already." Suddenly, an icy hand seized the teacher's wrist and a colossal column of ice erupted from the floor. The teacher froze. "What is this?" he stammered, terrified. The protagonist spoke for the first time. "I noticed some marks on this body when I changed into it." He broke the magical shackle. "So that was your doing." The teacher shouted, "Guys, what are you doing?" He gestured, but the icy grip tightened and more frost began to form. He screamed, "Speak again without my permission, and I will break your arm," the protagonist said coldly. "What are you saying?" the teacher cried as the icy grip constricted. "I told you don't speak without my permission." "Your left hand is next," the protagonist said. The teacher tried to recover. "That was merely part of his education," he stammered. The protagonist sneered. "So you say the whipping was a lesson? Then show me what kind of lesson that was." The teacher's whip clattered to the floor. "Whip yourself with that belt," the protagonist ordered. "I can't," the teacher wailed. An ice shard nicked the teacher's cheek and sent him sprawling. Terrified, he begged, "Would you rather be pierced by an ice arrow than whipped? I can't guarantee your life if you refuse." "I will do it, I will whip myself," the teacher cried. "Then do it," the protagonist said, "and strip." Next we saw the protagonist seated on a sofa while the teacher lashed himself repeatedly. He screamed and then abruptly stopped. "This should be enough, right?" he begged. "No," the protagonist replied. "Do it 100 more times." Horrified, the teacher sobbed. We later saw him lying on the floor, his back shredded from his self-inflicted whipping. Tears of relief streamed down his face. "It's over 100 times, he whispered. "Why the look of relief?" the protagonist asked. "I have no intention of letting you go just yet." Fear consumed the teacher as the protagonist gave him a devilish look. The teacher whimpered, clutching the fallen whip.